Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome into today's episode of Forte Catholic. I am back after a week at Life Teen Camp over in Georgia. It was a blast, but we will talk about that next week. This week's episode that you are going to be listening to today was pre-recorded before I left for camp for a couple reasons. One, we always record a week early, and I was going to be gone, so it's very difficult to record out in the middle of the woods. And also, keep Liv in your prayers. She actually goes into a major surgery the day that this releases, so she wanted to make sure to get another episode out for you guys before she went into that surgery. So keep her in your prayers. It's going to be a while until she's back. She's got a lot of recovery to do. If you've been along in her weight loss journey, that we're getting into the final parts of that, and it's exciting for her. But she was great on today's episode. We also have two very special guests today. We get into a debate, which is something that we don't do often here on this show. We had Kaitlyn Facista with Tea with Tolkien and David Bates from the C.S. Lewis podcast, Pints with Jack, and they debated who is better, once and for all, C.S. Lewis or J.R.R.R.R.R.R. Tolkien. Today's episode is great. I know that you guys will enjoy it. Again, just remember to keep Liv in your prayers. Also, hit the subscribe button. I know that Liv would appreciate that. Pray for Liv and also hit the subscribe button. We out here hustling, baby. Enjoy today's show. What's up? And welcome to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Schroll, and I've been saying for a long time that is Olivia Newton-John, and none of you people believed me. And we got confirmation just a couple of weeks ago when our good friend Olivia Newton-John Harrison went, to her weekly trip to Disney World.
Weekly trip. You're not wrong. It's gone a lot during the
It's closer
pandemic.
to weekly than yearly. So I guess I could have done
true.
monthly, but monthly is probably the closest to true of all of the timings.
I would argue with you, but yeah, you're right.
Nobody is surprised that you would argue with me. That's about literally anything. But
anything.
You brought me confirmation that you indeed are Olivia Newton-John. Tell us that story.
I am. I'm as famous as you say I am, and I look as good in a leotard as you would hope.
I am
None of
who
those
you
things
say
are true.
I am.
You're hilarious. I'm in Universal Studios, and my son, I took my 18-year-old, and he graduated from high school. It's just a mom and son trip. You know, your dream. Every 18-year-old guy's dream to go on a trip with their mom.
Right.
And we're at Universal Studios, and they have stars on the ground like they do, what is that, like Hollywood? Like the Walk of whatever, the Hall of Fame. I don't know what it's called.
I do like that you always think that you're in competition with our other female co-host, Allison Sullivan. And the last episode she was on, we talked about her actually going to actual Hollywood and
Did she?
getting an agent and all of these things.
Yes.
And now you're like,
She's legit.
I am actually inferior. I went to the fake Hollywood.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm that for everybody in case anyone was confused. I am inferior to Allison Sullivan.
We did it. We broke you early.
That's it. That's all I wanted to come on and say. I've known since I was in high school.
That's a lie. We also know that you very rarely have less than 2 minutes of something to say.
True. And now on to what I really want to talk about.
Okay.
But yes, I found Olivia Newton-John, which I wasn't looking at all for the stars. We were actually waiting for the new Born movie. Like they have a new stunt show at Universal. We were waiting in line, and there was the Olivia Newton-John star, and I thought, my good friend Taylor would love a picture of this.
I
So
did. It made me
I
so
know.
happy, and also
It was really
like,
fun.
oh, of course she's there again. Like I didn't know. Also, I find it odd that there's a new Born anything because the last Born movie came out 15 years ago.
Isn't that weird? We were like, they do know that, right? Like they have calendars at Universal, but apparently somebody thought actually, to be honest, it was a great show. It was a great stunt show, but it was weird because it was like, this is so old, but that's like Avatar at Disney. They brought that whole land, Pandora at Disney, and that was like 38 years ago.
Well,
so whatever.
I mean, they're
what do I know?
at least coming out with new ones of those. I mean, possibly soon. I mean, that's
They
the
keep
plan, at
saying
least.
it.
Yeah.
They keep saying it. I don't know. Yeah, but it was a great show. I'll let you know next week when I'm there.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But I was thinking of you when I saw my star
You,
in Florida.
You sent me that picture, which I loved, and then you sent me another picture where you were wearing a Forte Catholic hat, and I was like, how dare you make me look that bad in public?
I can't ever make you happy. I thought you'd be thrilled that I wore Forte Catholic all day.
I really was. Like, it's amazing that, like, the marketing for Forte Catholic reaches Universal Studios every month. Like, it's just really impressive.
That's right. I'm working that street hard. Okay, wait.
Well, yeah, there it is. There it is. You broke your record last month with, ruining the show within 40 seconds. It took you 10 times as long this week with 4 minutes.
Because I'm not feeling so great today. I'm off. I'm not. But I also had Zach wear it. He loves that hat. So Zach, my son, who's 18, he wore it a lot in Florida. So we were promoting Forte Catholic because we all know I'm the biggest fan of Forte Catholic. So I wanted to wear the merch. That's what I did. And then I made my own merch. I had somebody in Universal use spray paint to make, or airbrushing to make some stuff, some swag for me. I'm not cool like you. You have like legit merch. And I had to get some sad kiosk.
Will you make this shirt with my name on it so that I can wear it here and no one else can wear it?
So I can't sell this at all and look
exactly.
like I live in 1988? Yes.
It makes sense with your business plan of trying to never make any money ever.
So, I just like to spend money. Haven't we already established
that's
this?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's what you're known for.
It's what I'm known for.
Back
there we go.
When I was a kid, there was that show, Win Ben Stein's Money, and your whole life is spend Nathan's money.
See? I tell him all the time I'm the worst client he has.
Right.
Because he's a financial advisor.
Right.
I'm like, do you even know how awesome your life would be if I wasn't here?
It is kind of wild that his whole job is to tell other people what to do with their money, and he has no control over his own because of you.
I know. This poor guy, I've had him wrapped around my finger since we were 16.
Oh, that's so
poor.
sweet.
He should have met more people, but I snagged him up really young. So everyone's like, wow, this sounds really terrible about their marriage. Guys, it's a joke.
Your marriage is a joke. I agree.
Oh, don't say that. Nathan is awesome.
All right, speaking of jokes, I want to start today's show off with there's been usually for the show we have here is segment 1, here is segment 2, here is segment 3, and there's usually 3 very clear topics for the show, right? And you can see it when you click on the YouTube video or on the podcast, you see it. It's this topic, and this topic with Liv Harrison. This topic, and that topic with Father Anthony. Whatever it is, there's usually those 3. And I like that. I like to have 3 clear-cut segments so that people can, especially on YouTube, if you don't want to hear about, this one is probably going to be labeled random memes or Liv ruins Universal Studios, or something like that. If you're not interested in that, you can just click forward to the next thing where I have a guest and Liv isn't here. That's true about this episode. So
You're so excited.
Yeah. So I get a break in the middle of the show. It's amazing. So you can skip forward and that sort of thing. Well, every now and then we have to do kind of a catch-all segment, and that's what this is. Something along the lines of random things from the internet that Taylor found fascinating over the last month. That's where we're at right now. So
perfect. I
have already reacted to these things. If you follow on social media at Taylor Stroll on Instagram or Twitter, most likely you have seen some of these. So you'll get more of my actual insights than just a Instagram story, and you'll get Liv's insights, which no one asked or cared about, but that's what we're doing here. But also, if you don't follow on social media or you miss these because you're not tuning into everything that we do, shock. I don't know why you would live your life like that, but here's what we're doing. So I'm going to go through, it's mostly memes or some funny stuff, and then some more serious things. So I'm going to see, Liv, what you think about these things. So,
okay.
Did you watch The Mandalorian, the TV show?
I haven't.
Oh man.
Are you shocked?
You need to skip one of your Universal trips 1 month and just watch The Mandalorian. It'll be way cheaper and just as enjoyable.
That's true. It comes through my television.
Right,
Okay, yes.
exactly. So,
no, I need to. Okay, it's on my list.
So you know Baby Yoda. Like, everybody knows
Yes.
Baby Yoda, right? And
Yes.
we found out his name's Grogu later on. Well, one of the famous moments in the series is when he's like throwing up. He's a baby. He's a 50-year-old baby, which, you know, you're getting pretty close to. But he's a
You're
baby.
the worst.
And so he throws up. So it's a gif of Grogu throwing up. And the caption is, when I hear somebody say, quote, Daddy God. Have you ever heard somebody say that, like, in prayer, where they refer to God as Daddy
yes.
or Papa?
Yes.
Daddy's the weirdest.
They say Abba, like Abba means daddy or whatever, right? Isn't that why people say that?
Abba means, so it can be, it's like a more friendly use of the word father. So I would say it means more close to dad, right? Like, I've never called my dad daddy, you know, but I'm not going to call him father either, right?
Father.
So I call him dad, right? Like, that's like I'm close to
So you're saying it's casual, but we're making it sound ridiculously casual.
Insanely casual, right? So
like an infant. I don't like when grown people say daddy. Like, is that what we're saying? Are we agreeing on this right now?
There are certain situations where I'd be okay with it, but in prayer, definitely not okay.
Taylor, Schroll, Taylor.
What? I didn't say anything.
You mean your children? Yes, I agree with you.
Yeah, exactly. So
but in prayer, I would never say daddy. I never would.
I never even say dad. Like, it's God is Father.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Like, God is Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Jesus.
Yes.
To be fair, in prayer, I never say Son. I say Father, Jesus, Holy Spirit. Even with the Holy Spirit, I'm like, dove of goodness. Like, I would never say something stupid like that, you know? Like, it's pretty like.
You never say Emmanuel. You're never like, you know, great counselor. Yeah, you don't say these other words for him.
Every Sunday of Advent, I say Emmanuel, but other than that, no.
Not in your personal prayer life.
What's up, Maddie? How you doing? You know, like, that's not.
No, I agree with you. There should be a formality. I mean, this is the creator of the entire universe. I don't think this is where we just like kind of like, you know, get all in there and call. Well, first of all, that creeps me out when people say daddy.
Yeah.
Especially in prayer. I can't do it. No, I'm with you.
It's gross.
We agree.
Good.
We totally agree. This should be a new game. What do Taylor and Liv agree on? This is, write it down. One of the things.
Maybe that's what this segment is going to end up being called, because it'll be so rare. People will actually tune in and be like, wow, they agreed on something. Because every other episode is just Liv disagreeing. This one was.
That's it. It's just me. It's just me disagreeing. That's true.
This one was really cute. I know that you've seen another Disney property, but with, like, you know, the Marvel stuff. I know that you're a big Marvel fan.
Marvel. Yes.
So, you know, Tony Stark, one of his big mistakes was creating Ultron. That was the second Avengers movie, where one of his quotes was, I'm going to put a shield of armor around the world. Like, he was trying to, his intentions were good. He's trying to say, like, we don't, at some point, he's trying to put the Avengers out of a job, like, where they don't even need to be needed, where we're just so protected from everything outside the world. And obviously he failed, and the Avengers had to keep going. Like, he failed at that thing, right? It didn't work. You know, Thanos still got through the Earth. You know, like, there wasn't, but
there were more movies after.
Right, exactly. So. The Marvel Cinematic Universe didn't
anything.
end in 2010 or whatever that movie came out. But it's a meme, or not? I guess not a meme. It's a collection of photos, more like. It says Tony Stark couldn't put a suit of armor around the world, so he put a suit of armor around his world. And then it's a picture of, like, all the people that had, like, Spider-Man, who gave an iron suit, his wife, his kid, you know, like, Iron Patriot, like, all these guys where guys and gals that he just absolutely cared for. And even though he couldn't protect the whole world, but he protected his world. And I was just like, I'm gonna go cry now. You know, like,
rip out your heart.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
like, oh my God. Are you trying to say that you would put armor around me and Allison and Sam and your kids and, I don't know, your parents?
Sam and my kids, for sure. I have to put armor on before I talk to you.
Blevins,
the breastplate of righteousness, the girdle of truth, or whatever those things are. That's what I have to do before.
Here's your girdle of truth.
Yeah.
Can I do the Baby Yoda throwing up now?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Bleh.
Oh, it's not, like that's another word too, where it's like gird your loins, and I'm like, no,
No. Don't talk about girdling or loins
Right,
or
exactly.
together in a sentence.
The-
Like, we need to let that go.
it's scripture. We have to talk about it at some point.
I mean, I feel like we could I was about to say we could rewrite scripture, and I don't mean it that way.
If we could just rewrite scripture.
Retranslate it
Yeah, there you go.
to be more modern.
Daddy God.
But yeah, I'm with you. That is so sweet. And you actually remind me a lot of Iron Man, but don't tell anybody.
Oh, that's I like that a lot because
It might be the greatest compliment I've ever given
I am
you.
the poor version of Iron Man.
We all are. No one is Tony
No,
Stark.
you're not. We've
As
already
I talk to you
established
from
this.
my penthouse.
Oh my gosh,
in
your
the
husband
sky.
would be Tony Stark if you didn't spend all his money.
True. Y'all all know Taylor's kidding, right? People are like, what does
I'm
Nathan
not
do?
kidding. I'm not at all.
God bless America. But you remind me of Tony Stark. There's a heart in there somewhere.
Yeah, it just takes 12 years to figure it out.
Right? It glows every now
Right.
and then.
I saw this one. This is a real story. It's a picture that terrified me. It terrified and like I'm amazingly impressed by this, and also think it might be the end of the world coming soon. Which, stay tuned, we'll be talking about in our final segment.
This
here
is
today.
an upper of an episode.
Right. Dubai, the city of Dubai, which is in which country, Olivia?
Oh, that's adorable. I'm gonna say Saudi Arabia.
Very close, as in you got the right planet. So
I could have said Germany and had no clue.
worse,
I mean, it's
colder.
in the Mid East.
Germany is both colder and
Qatar.
further
Is it in
away.
Qatar?
No, but I'm really impressed that you said that right.
It's because of Nathan. He tries
Also,
to make
a lot
me
of people say
smart.
that it's Qatar, people from
Right.
there. But, whatever. Dubai is causing artificial rainstorms to fight extreme heat. So,
Wait, is that true?
yes, this is a real thing that has happened. Like, it sounds like something out of a Marvel movie, but it
Yeah.
was like there was a drought in Dubai, and they were like, yeah, we're going to send these things up in the clouds and cause it to rain.
No.
It's unbelievable. People are controlling
Okay,
the
that
weather.
is absolutely a sign that the end is coming.
I mean,
Wait, where's Dubai though? Where is it?
close to Lake Jackson, Texas. I'm just kidding. It's in
Okay,
India.
never mind. I'll look it up later.
No, you won't.
That's actually horrifying. Like, I am absolutely terrified that we can do that, or somebody on the planet can do that. That's like ridiculous.
What's
mean-
the line from? I think it's from Jurassic Park, where it's like everyone, like talking about like science and advancements and things. It's like all we ever asked is, could we do this? And no one ever stopped to ask, should we do
Should
this? Right?
Yeah,
Because it's
I agree.
because it's like, short term, man, they just amazing. They just ended a heat wave by making it rain. Literally, which is opposite of what your husband does. There's a different making it rain. But
So dumb.
I'm watching your face and just your
Poor
facial
Nathan.
reactions.
He's such a good guy.
I know. And
Go ahead.
I only do this because I know he listens to it. He listens to this podcast.
He listens to your
1,000
podcast
times more than
every
you do.
week. Every week, even if I'm not on it.
Oh,
That's how much he loves
I know.
you.
I
know.
get texts.
He's the better half. You know he's the better half. Come on. We all know this. So yeah,
But yeah.
even just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Right, like in the short term is really good, but like long term, it's like, do we really want to be controlling the weather? It's like,
Probably not.
it's not Mother Nature anymore. It's Doug in a lab. Like I'm not sure if we should.
Yes,
be doing
because a
this.
guy in Qatar is named Doug.
Again, Dubai is not
But
in Qatar.
Dubai, whatever. Dubai Doug.
There you go. This one was
I like that
good.
one.
This is a positive one.
Ooh.
Consider how precious a soul must be when both God and the devil are after it. It's Charles Spurgeon.
Ooh. That's deep. That's really profound. But okay, wait a second. Does that mean all of us? I just thought about that. It's like, wait, that actually involves all of us, doesn't it?
Yes, even your soul is precious.
Is being sought after by the devil and the God of the universe, who we do not call daddy.
Right, exactly. Let's close it out with there. I'm going through and I'm looking at like these old pictures and I see your Olivia Newton-John star. It's very good.
It really was a cute picture. It was fun. I was excited. I mean, what's so crazy? I mean, I don't even know how many stars are there at Universal. Just the fact that I happened to walk by that one, I just thought it was a little God wink, little daddy wink.
No, God, we got to get out of this. We're gonna close off with this one, and I think this one is perfect for you. This is a perfect one for you to have seen, and I'm not sure if you saw it or not. But it's a sign, like a literal sign. You know, like you put like outside of schools and stuff where like, I don't know. I did this when I was in junior high. Were you ever the person that would like go outside and like have to change the letters for like what the sign says?
I wanted to. I wanted to so badly. I never got chosen.
It is so painful. It's like you did not miss out. Like it felt like an honor, and then I went out there, and it's in Texas, and it's 100 degrees, and like it takes forever to take the letters off, put the new letters on, and then I realized I spelled something wrong, and the principal yelled at me. But this is one of those signs.
Okay.
It says, everything happens for a reason. You've heard that before, right? Like, a lot of people think it's from the Bible, 100% not from the Bible because it's dumb. This proves it. Everything happens for a reason. And sometimes the reason is that you're stupid and make bad decisions.
I love that.
It's so great.
Is that one of the, what is the place in Austin
Qatar?
that has the funny signs? Qatar. You know, the Mexican
like
restaurant
El
place.
Arroyo, I think is what it's called.
Yes, or whatever it is. Yeah. Is that one of those? Because that would be
I don't
perfect.
think so, but it is.
Well, they need it
something
because
like
that is a perfect sign for them. No, oh my gosh, I agree with that 100%.
All right, well, we'll close with that one. I was gonna do a Bernie Sanders impression, but I guess we're out of time. So, whenever we come back from this, thank God Liv won't be here. We actually have 2 guests for this next one. We haven't had guests in so long. I'm starting to start bringing them back. We had 2 this time. 2 of my friends, David Bates, returning to the show after many years, and Kaitlyn Facista making her yearly appearance on the show. What happens more, Kaitlyn coming on the show or you going to Universal? But they're coming back because we know Tea with Tolkien. Kaitlyn is Tea with Tolkien, and David leads the Pints with Jack podcast about C.S. Lewis. So they are going to debate. I'm just sitting along for the ride. Who is better, J.R.R. Tolkien or C.S. Lewis? Don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss this one. Hello, you, dear listener. Forte Catholic is a non-profit organization. Everything that we do here is all for the glory of God. Well, that can't be the only reason that I'm doing this, because this is my job and my livelihood. And I need your help. At Forte Catholic, we are not only trying to grow, but I am trying to feed my family. So if you care about either of those things, building up the kingdom or letting me feed my children, we need your support at fortecatholic.com/donate. Monthly donors are literally our backbone, like how we are able to keep going, how I'm able to do all this work full time. So if you can give $10, $50, $25, $100, the average people that give is around that $50 to $100 a month. And we need your help. We really do. Times are tough. Money is thin, and we love this work that we are able to do. And we need your help to continue it at fortecatholic.com/donate. If you want to give a one-time gift, that's also welcome as well. Helps us to keep things afloat, helps us to upgrade things, that sort of thing. So we are a nonprofit, so it's tax deductible, so it's good in the government's eyes, but it's also like tithing, donating to the church. So thank you guys in advance for that, and for all of you who have already supported. Thank you so much. We really do appreciate it. fortecatholic.com/donate. Thanks. Welcome back to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Schroll, and I am joined with 2 of my friends today. It's been a long time since we have had 2 guests at one time. And usually when we do 2 guests at one time, it is a friendly affair. But not today! Today we've got 2 frenemies on the show. David Bates of the Pints with Jack podcast, talking about in the C.S. Lewis corner, and Kaitlyn Facista, who is, everybody knows there's Tea with Tolkien, in the Tolkien corner. So we are going to decide once and for all today, who is better, Kaitlyn or David? I mean, Lewis or Tolkien? Welcome to both of you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
So
happy to be here.
Good.
I'm hoping this will get personal really quickly.
I'm very nervous.
It will. David, you said that you had some like planned barbs for Kaitlyn, and Kaitlyn's like the sweetest human being in the world. So if you attack her too much, I'm just telling you that the audience will turn on you.
I might cry.
The last thing that my wife said to me before I came into our wardrobe to record is, "You're a good man. Try to remember that."
Yeah. We'll see if she still agrees after hearing. She's only going to hear a third of the conversation. We'll see if she still agrees with you by the end. But y'all have both been on the show before. Kaitlyn more times and more often. I think we'll see why after we get through this interview. And also, Kaitlyn, I have listened to every episode of your podcast.
Aww.
And I have listened to every episode of David's podcast that he has paid me to edit.
You listen to my podcast for free.
I do.
That's so sweet.
I will actually say I have also listened to every episode of your podcast as well.
What?
Wow. Mine or hers?
Oh, not yours.
Well,
our relationship is established. We have to pay each other to listen to our stuff.
100%. Either with time or money or both. So I think I already said David's podcast, Pints with Jack, which I love to edit and produce and make David sound smarter than he actually is. Kaitlyn, we haven't heard about your podcast yet. Tell us about it.
Yes, well, my podcast is called Tea with Tolkien, and right now we are on a break for the summer, but I just can't keep it up, Taylor. I don't know how you do it. I can't do an episode every week. It's crazy. But so we are going to be starting our Lord of the Rings book club in September. And then sometimes I'll do an episode that kind of addresses like a topic related to Tolkien. But right now we're focusing on the book club.
And I've been part of your Silmarillion book club. I read it for the first time this year.
Yay! That's like makes me so happy to hear when people actually read it. It's amazing.
My wife just finished it, and she did it with the book club. I did not read it. I did the Cliff Notes version and just let you summarize it for me on the podcast and counted that as my reading, like I counted all of my Cliff Notes in high school as reading.
That's amazing to me. I am always so honored when my friends who they're not really into Tolkien, they listen to my podcast anyways. Like, it means so much to me.
Well, I would actually say the reverse. I am deeply hurt when close friends and family don't listen to my podcast.
Well, welcome to my club, David. All right, but enough introductions. Let's get into it. This is our Tolkien versus Lewis debate. A friendly debate between guys who, here's what I know, almost nothing. I know that they were members of the Inklings, this group. Like, they were around each other a lot. We're going to go to Kaitlyn first. Do you think that the two people that we are debating about today, that you two are debating about today, were they friends?
Yes, I think they were friends. I don't think I would call them best friends because I know Tolkien was pretty disappointed that C.S. Lewis didn't convert all the way to Catholicism. I think he was happy that he, became a Christian because I think Tolkien played a pretty big part in his conversion. Although I don't know as much about Lewis as David does, so this is very embarrassing. But I think that they were friends, but I don't think that they had they weren't like besties.
David?
I don't think any Oxford Don really has a bestie per se.
See, I was right.
But they certainly were close, and Tolkien sort of took their relationship to a deeper level when he offered him a manuscript to read and to offer his thoughts. And Lewis sent him back a very short note saying, "I spent all night reading it. It was wonderful. I haven't enjoyed anything like this in years. More details to follow." And then a little bit later, he then sent him a letter, I think something like 17 pages front and back, also where he had rewritten various portions of the poem that Tolkien had sent him. So they definitely had a friendship, but sometimes that didn't always mean that they didn't criticize each other. As Kaitlyn said, I think Tolkien was always a little disappointed that Lewis never converted to Catholicism, and he brought his son, who was a priest, to Lewis near the end of his life. But the two also remained close and very, very faithful to one another. And when we interviewed Douglas Gresham, who was C.S. Lewis's stepson on our show, he said that when he was visiting Lewis in hospital once, he bumped into Tolkien and he said, "If ever you need a place to stay, you always have us."
Aw.
That's cute.
It is very cute. Okay, so that's a little bit about that, and I did have to laugh thinking about like what is the modern day Inklings, and I've heard people talk about that, right? I think I'm going to argue that it's Catholic podcasters. It's like your friends. You can't be best friends with any of them because, like, you know, there's a little bit of competition there. It's like, oh, I could have redone that segment a little better than you, and you're like, well, I could have done the whole show better than you. You know, so it's a little bit of Inklings, a percentage of it left in the Catholic podcasting world. But what I want to do now is actually get into like the meat of the debate. So my first question to both of you, and we will go ladies first on this one, and maybe we'll snake draft it here as we go through. But I want you to argue on behalf of your guy. Why is your guy the best guy? Kaitlyn?
Okay, so I think that Tolkien is the best because not only did he create an entire world that his stories are set in, he started out by creating a language, and like everything flows from the languages that he invented. And the whole idea that he, you know, he's like, I'm going to create a language. I think that's extremely cool. He should get points for that. And then not only that is that all of the names within his stories, they have so much meaning based off of the languages. Like he doesn't take, I don't know, I don't want to drag Harry Potter into this, but I feel like you get Harry Potter.
If y'all want to debate, I could be Team Rowling if you want.
I feel like it's like, oh, someone in Harry Potter, oh, they're named after a star or whatever. Oh, this is just a Latin word. But with Tolkien, I feel like there's so much depth down to like the very details, even the names, even like the trees have names. Everything is just so rich and deep, and he just wrote so much. It's so expansive. And I also think a lot of people refer to him as the father of fantasy, like modern fantasy. I don't know what you guys think about that, but that's also pretty cool. Hobbits are great.
Quote of the week.
I'm going to get destroyed in a minute. I'm just trying to think of really great things. I just feel like Tolkien is incredible because when you read The Lord of the Rings, especially, it feels like you're in the real world, or it's a world that feels more real than the world that we're in. Like he created an entire secondary world. And when you look at our world through this kind of Middle Earth tinted lens, things make a lot of sense. And I think that's because he had the worldview and the philosophy that comes with being Catholic, because I feel like the Catholic faith is like the fullness of Christianity and it's the fullness of truth. And so because Tolkien was going off of Catholicism and everything he's learned being raised Catholic, being raised in part by a priest, I just feel like he has just like a leg up over Lewis because everything just makes so much sense.
Okay, you're getting into the versus Lewis thing.
Okay,
we'll
sorry.
Get there.
Yeah.
I promise we'll get there. I want to give David a chance to say, why do you love Lewis? We'll get to the fighting, I promise.
Okay.
Yeah, Kaitlyn began with saying why Tolkien was best. It's like, oh, so we're going to throw down right away, are we? So why is Lewis great? Firstly, he was super smart. He gained a triple first from Oxford in classics, philosophy, and English. And normally English would have taken 3 years. Lewis did it in 1. He's that smart. He also cranked out so many books. Since he reached adulthood, probably about 1 a year. And very often they came from conversations with people like Tolkien. They actually flipped a coin as to who was going to write a space travel story and who was going to write a time travel story. And Lewis got the space travel story and produced the Ransom trilogy, Out of the Silent Planet, Perelandra, and That Hideous Strength. And not only did he write so much, it was in every genre you can possibly imagine. It was essays, apologetics, sermons, fairy tales, science fiction, poetry. He wrote an autobiography. And alongside that, he had his professional work as a literary critic. He was also really funny. You find his humor found throughout his books. When he was a very young boy, I think he was 5 years old, he told his father that he had a prejudice against the French. And his father asked him why he had a prejudice. And this little 5-year-old Lewis says, well, if I knew why, it wouldn't be a prejudice. And you find that stuff.
The 31-year-old me I very much connects with that 5-year-old. Friends are the worst.
And honestly, you find it throughout all of Lewis's work. Whatever he wrote, it was always incredibly readable and engaging. And he was also a wonderful man. He was extremely generous. From all of his books, he earned considerable wealth, but he gave away 2/3 of it anonymously through a fund that he set up through his friend, Owen Barfield. And I suppose to wrap things up, we've got to talk about his Christian faith and his conversion. And he has a wonderful conversion story, first to theism, belief in God, and then ultimately to Christianity. And you see all of the elements of the Christian life expressed in that journey. The rationality, as he started to reason out that there had to be a God, as well as engaging myth and story, which was a large part of his conversion to Christianity. And that's why he could say wonderful things like, the mind is the organ of truth, but imagination is the organ of meaning. And lastly, as his role as evangelist and apologist, it is entirely proper that some people regard him as the greatest Christian apologist of the 20th century. And his impact on the church and culture just can't be calculated. I wonder how many people you could point to for whom Lewis was an important part of their conversion. And my co-host, Andrew, actually wrote a book about this. It's called Mere Christians, and he takes 55 different people whose lives were dramatically changed from reading C.S. Lewis. And that includes people like Chuck Colson, Philip Yancey, Thomas Howard, Joseph Pearce, and many, many more.
So now we're going to get into the arguing why your guy is better than specifically the other guy. And like, just from my layman's perspective, I've already seen like, oh, like we have Tolkien, who's like the father of fantasy, right? And I can even see like in my life, like I'm a huge fan of fantasy and all the people that came after that. You could see like Conversion of Heart. It's Screwtape Letters is one of the most Conversion of Heart books that I've ever read. So I can see that books, like both of these men have influenced my life quite a bit. But, you know, I can already see a couple arguments. Like, David's trying to take credit for all of these guys who have become Christian that wouldn't have become Christian if Tolkien hadn't made Lewis Christian. So let's get into that stuff, Kaitlyn. And then make sure that you guys are, taking some mental notes, because I'm going to let you rebut each other. I just like using that word. So, Kaitlyn, why is Tolkien better than Lewis?
Well, I might say that if Tolkien might not have influenced Lewis towards Christianity, we might not even have what we have now from C.S. Lewis. So you could say that Tolkien is better because without Tolkien, we couldn't have Lewis. So that is definitely one possibility. And I just want to say I feel like David is much better at arguing than I am. And everything you say sounds very eloquent because of your
English accent?
Yes, your accent. See, I can't even think of the word. See, so I'm at like a total disadvantage here. And but Tolkien is better just objectively. So it's unfortunate for you that you're here. But really, I think it goes back to his Catholicism, because I definitely see that Lewis is responsible for a lot of conversions. I'm not responsible. Jesus is responsible. But he has definitely played an important role. And I know he played an important role for me, too, because I was raised Protestant Christian, but it didn't really mean anything to me until I did start reading like Mere Christianity and some of his stuff like that. I haven't read as much Lewis as you have, obviously, but I do feel like he's important. But I feel like Tolkien just takes everything to that next step. And I feel like he provides a more like complete picture for you. And he kind of, like, Lewis brought me closer to Jesus, and then Tolkien kind of took me from there and brought me like all the way to the Catholic Church, if that makes sense.
Cool. David, it's time to unleash the beast.
Well, my lords, ladies and gentlemen, fawns, naiads, and centaurs, why is Lewis better than Tolkien? Well, earlier I said that Lewis was super smart. Not only did he gain his multiple degrees in record time, he also produced more scholarly work than Tolkien, and he was far more engaging as a lecturer than Tolkien. His lectures were notoriously poorly attended. And I spoke about how much Lewis wrote. Tolkien spent most of his life struggling through his magnum opus. And I spoke about the coin toss between Lewis and Tolkien and how Lewis produced the Space Trilogy out of that. Tolkien's story languished. It was called The Lost Road, and it was ultimately lost and abandoned. We actually do have the text, but that doesn't have the same stinging retort. And
I lied to get a point.
I'd like to get a point. And I would suggest that Tolkien's situation was actually much more favorable to his writing since he had a professorship, but Lewis was slaving away as a tutor. And George Sayer actually noted that Tolkien was probably a bit jealous of Lewis with regards to his productivity, and Lewis himself said that Tolkien had the work rate of a coral insect. Some Tolkien fans might assert that, well, they'll admit that, yes, Lewis does have more books. Yes, he did write in more genres, but Tolkien is still the better writer. But this is incorrect. Let me explain why. For example, they might say that Tolkien put more thought into his work. Well, I would actually argue if anyone's read The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, they'll know that Tolkien was definitely making things up as he went along. And he might have built his world in painstaking detail, but Lewis is more evocative. He allows the reader's imagination to come alive and fill in the details. Tolkien's books are also a bit of a bro-fest, and they're rather absent from many decent female characters. The female dwarves and the male dwarves might be indistinguishable because of their beards.
If you're not watching this on YouTube and seeing Kaitlyn's eye rolls, you're missing out. Please continue, David.
Well, I'm just saying that the male and female dwarves might be indistinguishable because of their beards, but it would be nice to meet one. And I think the Ent wives were poorer. The Ents were poorer for not having their Ent wives. And in Lewis, we actually have wonderful female characters like Lucy, Aravis, and Polly from Narnia, and we have Orwell from Till We Have Faces. But I will admit that The Lord of the Rings is a masterpiece. And I'm going to do the same thing that Kaitlyn tried to do earlier. And I'll respond to her critique in a moment. But The Lord of the Rings is a masterpiece, but we have Lewis to thank for that. Tolkien himself said that for a long time he was my only audience. Only from him did I ever get the idea that my stuff could be more than a private hobby. But for his interest and unceasing eagerness for more, I should never have brought The Lord of the Rings to a conclusion. So I would like to submit that any argument from literary excellence is ultimately an argument in favor of Lewis, who both encouraged, critiqued, and helped Tolkien get that work published.
All right, well, let's give Kaitlyn a chance to rebut other than just eye rolls.
Ooh. Well, so this is a little bit difficult because I haven't read as much Lewis as you have read Tolkien. But I would argue that the bit you said about like no women or lacking in women, I would say that, yes, there's a lot of guys, certainly. But I do feel like the women in Tolkien's works, to me, are more like powerful and meaningful. Maybe there's less of them, but I do feel like they're up there. I just totally forgot what I was about to say.
It's okay. Your eye roll said all they needed.
Yes, thank you. Yes, you're very good at arguing. I think a lot of what you said is wrong, but you are good at arguing about it. And I am not good at arguing, so I really don't see any way out of this.
Well, I see a way out of it with one final question. We could go on for days and hours, and you could hear these two gush about how much they love Tolkien and Lewis on their podcast, Tea with Tolkien and Pints with Jack. But I want to close today's time with one final thing. Because you have been, David, you've had Kaitlyn on the podcast. Y'all are friendly. So we started the conversation with, were Lewis and Tolkien friends? It's like, yeah, and also this. So to close out our debate, do you think that super fans of Lewis, and super fans of Tolkien, like yourselves, can be friends? We'll start with you. Well, David, we'll let you go first this time.
Gonna have to seriously resist the urge to speak all of the other points that I had and rebut. But instead, rather than rebut, I'm going to turn the other cheek. So you should appreciate that.
Hey, I like that joke.
I will admit that I've been a little naughty today in my assessment of Tolkien. I don't actually think that Lewis would really approve. He actually says in The Four Loves that we're generally more eager to praise and dispraise rather than describe and define, that we can't say that two different artists are good without putting them in order. It's all about recognizing the strengths that each of them brought to one another. And Tolkien definitely has his strengths. And so, yes, I think we can be friends because the two men together became greater than the sum of their parts. Dr. Diana Glyer wrote this wonderful book called Bandersnatch, and she unpacks how these two men helped and supported each other, how they were the heart of the Inklings, and about how together they became two of the most powerful literary voices in the 20th century. So we can be friends.
Right. Yes, I agree. I think every good friendship group has someone who's kind of more of a Tolkien and then someone who's more of a Lewis, and I think they really balance each other out very well. And I think that's part of why both of them were so successful, because they had each other to go off of, to read each other's works and to criticize each other. And they didn't have that kind of like fluffy friendship where you just say yes to everyone. They had like a real strong friendship where you could say, hey, I think this is dumb. I don't like what you're doing here. This is better in terms of writing. And I think that their friendship is really powerful and something that we could totally emulate.
So I think ultimately, I didn't even realize this coming in, but I think it is kind of funny that like the more religious someone is, the more combative they seem to be against other religions, right? Like, like nominal Catholics aren't like arguing against Judaism or other Christian, but like the super intense Baptist and the super intense Catholic, like those are the ones that are arguing over each other. So I'm just like, I think I can be a minimal fan of both gentlemen. And y'all are like super fans. So
take that weak sauce out of here.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, good. I didn't think I was going to be the target today, and apparently it ended that way, like it should. So we could have done literally an entire hour on this, but you guys do entire episodes on this. We've talked about the podcast a couple of times. How else can people get in touch with you? Whether they are a huge Tolkien fan or a Lewis fan, they should check both out. So, Kaitlyn, how else can they find you?
So everything I do is at my website, teawithtolkien.com, or if you want to follow me on social media, I am at teawithtolkien on Twitter and Instagram.
Dave?
And everything that I do is at pintsforjack.com. We're also on Twitter, Instagram. And please, nobody send me horrible emails telling me that I hate Tolkien. I don't hate Tolkien. Much like Lewis wrote in his diary after he first met him, there's no harm in him. He only needs a smack or so.
Was he writing about me somehow? Okay. I do love, like, I think honestly my favorite part of this is that David is recording in a wardrobe, which is essentially conceding before we even started. So to both of you, thank you guys for being here. I hope that you two enjoyed it, and I hope that everybody listening enjoyed this fight. I will be right back. Do not go anywhere. We are closing in on a couple of milestones over on the YouTubes. We are about to hit 500 subscribers, which is halfway to our goal of hitting 1,000. It has grown so much this month. This is the biggest month of growth we have ever seen on our YouTube channel. We just hit 30,000 views across all of our videos. So thank you for all of you guys that are subscribed already. If you are not subscribed yet, do it. YouTube.com/Forte Catholic. It's a free way to show your love and support for the show. And there's also great stuff there for you. We got full-length episodes of this show where you can see us, not just hear us. We've got flashback videos from old stuff, great stuff from the show, and even stuff from beyond just the podcast. We've got series where we're jumping into Marvel, to pop culture, all sorts of great stuff over there at youtube.com/Forte Catholic. Subscribe today if you love me. 3, 2, and Juan Diego. Welcome back to Forte Catholic. I am Taylor Stroll, and I am rejoined by Olivia Eugene Harris. We need to find a star with Olivia Eugene Harris on it next. I'll have one made in your honor.
Use Nathan's money. You could,
exactly.
He could sponsor it.
So, we started the show off with some mostly positive things from the internet, like memes and funny and good quotes, funny quotes, and then that one bad daddy god thing. But that was just a precursor for, really dumb people on the internet, right? And Forte Catholic's Facebook page, which, is for people your age, got a comment on it the other day. And it was like, it was one of those things. I think a while back we got a comment like people just hating on me, where it wasn't even like in regard to the post, right? Like John and I talked about it a few months ago. But like, here was another one that like I didn't feel personally attacked by this one at all, because it was so stupid that it doesn't make any sense at all. But again, it was just like posted on something that had nothing to do with it. Like, it was just like a random episode a couple of weeks ago where it's like, here's the episode, here's our 3 topics, here's who was on it. You know, listen on podcasts or YouTube. And this is what they wrote. It's very long. I'm not going to read the whole thing. But this was the comment. We weren't talking about the end times. We weren't talking. It was just like, this is where they felt was appropriate to 100% change my mind and prepare me for the rapture. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Soon, millions of people, including children, will disappear off this earth in the rapture of the church. Those left behind will be glad they weren't taken and will believe it was a mass alien abduction. Now, I already have many pushbacks. I mean, and I can scroll. This is like 3 pages that this guy wrote. Well, it didn't
Is this
write.
a real follower, or is this just some rando?
No, some rando that probably searched. It probably had hashtag Catholic on it or something, and his life goal is to convert Catholics to prepare us for the rapture. And
well, it sounds like it worked.
Oh,
sounds like this is a solid plan.
You are notorious for giving away the end of segments, like, going to where I'm supposed to be leading to. And you got it right this time. He converted me. I think this is all real. Those left behind will be glad they weren't taken and will believe it was a mass alien abduction. Like, I mean, what a leap from where, like, earlier this year, they were like, hey, UFOs, meaning unidentified flying objects. Like, they are real. Like, it wasn't even like a confirmation of like aliens are real. It was just like, we, as in like the American government, have seen things that even we can't explain with our high-tech stuff. We're not saying they were even asked, like, was it aliens? And they were like, we don't know. Like, we don't know. And then all of a sudden, like, millions of people are going to be gone, and all of creation is just going to be like, yep, it was aliens. Like, it's so crazy to me.
That Area 51 thing was real.
Right, and we all just agree now because, humanity's known for all agreeing on stuff, for sure.
This is how we're going to unite, Taylor. This is how we're going to come back together as a people.
You must have written this comment, because he actually gets into that here pretty soon.
No.
Then
Are you serious?
A world leader will appear out of nowhere, and he will be loved and accepted by the whole world. Yeah, because that's going to happen, because world leaders are so beloved. Like, every time we have somebody who's, like, relatively decent, half of America votes for them. And you know who agrees with America, universally? No one. We don't have friends. Like, no one likes us.
It's so true.
And so everybody is now going to agree. Millions of people disappear, and all of a sudden people are like, it was all aliens, and we all love, John F. Kennedy's great-grandson or something. Like, it doesn't make any sense at all.
I have to say that part is probably the more unbelievable part than the aliens.
Right.
Like
100%.
the aliens, well, okay, maybe that might work. But this part about we're all going to unify, I'm gonna have to say no.
I ironically enough, we talk about you and I disagreeing a lot. I agree. I think it's easier for all of humanity to agree that all aliens are real than to like one human being.
I completely agree.
He will confirm a 7-year peace treaty in the Middle East. And yeah, because they've only been fighting for thousands of years, and they're just going to agree to stop fighting because, what was his name? Dubai Doug is now the leader of the free world.
He can make it rain. What if Dubai Doug is the leader? And we do agree because he can change the weather. Now, that might be a good point.
He just makes, like, the Gaza Strip rain all the time so they can't fight anymore.
We should follow that guy.
They're going to rebuild the temple in Jerusalem and bring a false peace to the world. The destruction that follows will be blamed on global warming, but it will be, in fact, God's judgment upon the earth for rejecting him and his plan of salvation through Jesus Christ. Now, this guy is like a firm believer in Jesus. Like the guy writing this believes in the rapture. And you want to know how I know that this guy's faith needs a little work? I mean, mine does too. If anybody listens to this show, you know that my faith needs work. You know what this guy is saying, though? That, like, the ultimate power that, like, we've all heard, like, there are things in our Bible that talk about the end times. Most importantly, that none of us know the time or the hour or how it's going to happen. But, this guy seems to skip over those parts of the
Dubai
Bible.
Doug does.
Right. But the crazy thing is that this guy doesn't even believe in the power of God. He says that like all of the fire and the raining down of the earth and the unleashing of the angels in Revelation, all that's going to be so weak that it's going to all amount up to global warming. Like, oh, the world is getting 0.001 degrees hotter every year. And people are, that's not the end times. Like, I actually believe more in the end times badness than this guy does. He's all over the place.
You should go on his page and write what you think.
Yeah, I'll send him this podcast. I'm sure he'll listen. He'll listen as well as I'm listening to him.
Or as much as
I apologize. He changed my mind. He says, you think you're going into the peaceful millennium, but you're actually going into the judgment of the Great Tribulation. From that point on, your only hope is to listen to the two witnesses in Jerusalem. They speak the truth. And before, like, I have to skip to the end here, because now that's the end of his, like, message. And then he uses, like, scriptural proof for everything that he said. And I want to go through some of those. Most importantly, this end line here, where he says, from that point on, your only hope is to listen to the two witnesses in Jerusalem. They speak the truth, all capitalized. And if I go down to the two witnesses, it's from Revelation 11. And I will give power unto my two witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. I think this guy thinks he's one of those two people. What? Like, me, as a prideful person, looks at this guy and be like, man, that mad props on the amount of pride that it thinks to, like, that I'm not the Antichrist, I'm not the Savior, but I am one of the two people who actually knows what's going to happen.
I'm a sackcloth guy.
Right, yeah. Unbelievable.
That's pretty I think that's your new merch. I think you should have like a shirt that says sackcloth. And just wear it.
Well, I don't have to, because I think we've made the joke on the show on the show before, but like, I'm always wearing a hair shirt. So
you do love locusts.
That's why I'm more of a honey guy. But yeah, I mean, my life is suffering. Okay, this guy, I mean, 2 Thessalonians 2:11. This is the proof that aliens exist, I guess. And for this cause, God shall send them strong delusion, and they shall believe a lie. Like, how is that? How is that aliens?
Could that be the Kardashians? No, I'm just kidding.
I think it's, and like, the amount of things, if I was to list
so many things
that are like strong delusions and lies that people believe, do you know how far down the list, like aliens being part of the rapture would be?
Right. There'd be about 7,000 things before that that we'd be like, that's going to be on the list, but we'll go ask the sackcloth guy because he knows.
It's unbelievable. So,
is it Will Smith? Who wrote this?
I don't know.
Who believes in aliens?
I think Will Smith
Keanu
is
Reeves.
much more.
Not that I don't believe in aliens. I don't really know. I don't really care. But I'm just saying, like, this is hilarious. I hope you copy and paste this and have this like embroidered.
Oh, you know what I'm gonna do?
This
I'm gonna go post it on a bunch of other Catholic podcasts.
You need
random comments for no reason. I've been changed, brother. I've seen the light, and now you must too.
I think this should be painted on a canvas and put over your fireplace.
Yeah.
This whole comment.
Oh man. Yeah, this is the response to my entire body of work over the last decade working for the church. This is the response that I deserve.
At least you got one of the sackcloth guys to notice you.
I mean, for real. Maybe I'm the other one. If I'm convinced to change my mind, maybe I'm the second guy.
If you get a package in the mail and you open it, you're like, what is this?
Yeah,
You're like, it's my sackcloth from Dubai Doug. So we solved a lot on this episode.
I mean, I think we've changed everything. So, ironically enough, when it comes to the actual end time of what Catholics believe, we can do a whole thing on that. But I could tell you one thing: it's not that. Like I think it's safe to say that anyone who is firmly convinced that they know what's going to happen and when it's going to happen, that's the only thing that I can say 100% is wrong. I took a class in undergrad called apocalyptic literature, like all about the apocalypse, which means like end times.
Seriously?
Yeah.
That's great. I love that.
It was so
That's
cool. So
that's super cool.
we looked at, like, we started with, like, there's a lot of stuff in the Bible, in the Old Testament, talking about the end times. There's a lot of stuff, Revelation. There's a lot of, like, Jesus talks about, prepare yourself for the end times. Like, that's all true, right? Like, we all need to be consistently growing in holiness, in a state of holiness, so that either when we die or Jesus returns, we're ready for that. Like, that's the church's teaching on, like, the end times in a nutshell, right?
Right.
But the reason, so we went through all the Old Testament, we went through the New Testament, and then we started looking at, like, things that weren't scripture, like other like Mesopotamia and Babylon, like other groups of people that also taught about the end times. And this, I was in college at the time of, like, the Mayan thing ending, like the Mayan calendar ending.
Right. That comes up every now and then when they're like, hey, tomorrow's when Nicodemus said the world was going to die.
Right.
I'm like, oh, that's
Exactly.
cool.
So I think the Mayan thing was like 2012, I think something like that. And then there was another one like in 2010 or 11 where it was like,
Nietzsche had something. Yeah.
Another person absolutely convinced because of the Bible. They did like math based on, all this stuff. And it was just like,
right.
And every time, like, it was so funny. The only constant in people like this that believed 100% that they knew what was going on is that, like, they said, here's the date, May 14th, 1994. And then it didn't happen. And then 10 years later, I mean, literally all these people, 10 years later, oh, we had our math wrong. It's actually May 19th of 2005 or whatever, and then they're wrong again. And then they do it one more time and then they fade into like out of existence. Right.
Right.
And like, so like the only constant in all of history, Christian history, Catholic history, Babylonian history, is that if you say that you know when, where, why, how, you're wrong. Like, that's the only constant.
Red flag.
Right.
Although now I kind of want a calendar of all the ones that you're talking about, like what's coming up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're prepared. We're like,
we
this
might
is the
not
Hitler
believe
day.
it, but it wouldn't be bad to go to confession the day before. It's not a terrible thing.
Like, we're just saying. I mean, might as well eat like your favorite meal.
Right, exactly.
The night before.
I'm
The
worried about
Mayans.
going to confession, and you're worried about your last meal. Amazing.
I mean, actually, that's kind of funny. You would think it'd be the opposite or the same. But why can't we go to confession and have our last meal?
Now we're talking. And again, we end the day by agreeing. It's amazing. I've got to get out of here before we start disagreeing. Liv, this was actually a pleasant experience. And I haven't said that about any of our episodes in the last year. You've been to Universal more times than I've enjoyed your presence.
Maybe this is the sign of the end times.
Yeah.
Now everybody's freaking out.
It all ends tomorrow, guys. That's what's confirmed. All right, well, that's it for us. I am out. I'll be back next week. Say it. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening to today's episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. Once again, keep Liv in your prayers. That's the one thing I'm remembering to say. None of this is written down, so it's just off the top of my dome. And I could put a lot of things on the top of my dome because there's no hair there. Go follow Kaitlyn. Go follow Pints with Jack, Tea with Tolkien. What a great episode we had today. If you liked it, make sure that you hit subscribe on our YouTube channel, wherever you're listening to the podcast. If you're listening to the podcast, leave a review. If you're watching on YouTube, comment your favorite part or a question that you want us to tackle on our next couple of episodes. I think that's it. I'm out of things on top of my head. So sad. It's a bald joke. All right, I'll be back next week. Bye.